Hello and welcome back to New Paradigm Healing. This series focuses on ayahuasca assisted therapy. Our intention is to educate, inform, and support the conscious and responsible use of ayahuasca in the Western context. If you want to know more about ayahuasca assisted therapy and our upcoming trainings and workshops, sign up for our mailing list to be the first one to know about the latest news at avatarhealingarts.com. Hello, welcome to all of our audience. I am here with Casey again, and we are so happy today. We are really excited to talk about the ayahuasca integration in relationships to mirrors, and really just coming the journey from ignorance to like awakening and consciousness. And we are currently between two eclipses. So the first eclipse of the season was a full moon lunar eclipse last week, and we are heading into a solar eclipse on the 10th of June. And we were talking with Casey at the beginning that we are definitely feeling these energies, like almost like being in a pressure cooker, and the intensity is going on, and how we both described our experiences that that there is stuff is coming up and it cannot be denied and suppressed anymore. It's just like universe is putting you all these mirrors to you in front of you, and there is like nowhere else to look, and if you want to look away, you're just looking into another mirror. And this can be intense. And I think that all of you who work with this medicine and conscious responsible way and do your integration process, probably you are familiar with this feeling with it. Well, it's a type of awakening really, when you come from a state of ignorance, when you are not aware really what is going on, into a state of awakened, more conscious state, when you are actually more clued in of who you are and what's happening. And I want to start with a sharing a little story that happened to me that's really, I think, relates to this topic today. When I was 11 years old, I had a vision when I saw myself sitting in a circle with other people, and I had the sensation that I want to say something to these people, but I couldn't speak, and it felt like my mouth is full of cotton wool, and it was just kind of hard to get out signs and stuff. But eventually I was able to speak out. And what I said was that the whole world is a mirror for the soul to recognize itself. And it was clear to me, even in that experience as a child, that this was a message that came through me. I didn't even understand, obviously, what does this really mean at that time, but it was like edged into my consciousness, so to say. And I think it's just really a good place to start, because definitely my experience in my life's journey, but especially since I met the medicine and I work with this medicine, definitely became so to say, like I call it a hall of mirrors, and I look at it that, okay, everybody is your teacher and healer, and they are there, to reflect a certain aspect of you that you either do not want to see or cannot see for some reason. So it's kind of like a blind spot for you, and that part of you is kind of a separated part that needs to be integrated, but you can't integrate it without becoming aware that you have that aspect, right? So the mirror serves really to show you something that otherwise you would not be able to see about yourself, because you're yourself. And so the last 10 years, since I'm work with this medicine, it really become like a daily practice in my life. And I definitely not a master in this yet, but there was a lot of improvement to look at challenging situations and triggers and triggering people through this lens of, wow, what is this mirroring to me? What is this showing me? What can I learn from this experience? And how can this be an opportunity for me to heal and become more whole, and to bring more love to where I still need love, and to be just more accepting, with myself. instead of pointing a finger, blaming, judging other people, and just resisting or denying or pushing against what is being shown. So yeah, what is your experience about this whole story?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me again and deep diving into another fun topic of awareness and mirroring. This is something that is pretty new to me. I would say within the last year, for sure, the last 6 months that I've been practicing daily on. There's all of this exposure coming out. And when you talked about the eclipse, physically, I was feeling like you were talking about the pressure cooker, and I was feeling that in my head. And I don't get headaches. And it was this stuff that I really was needing to look at based on that mirror. So, like, one quick example was my mom had come over and I had felt she was being critical. We had just had this big ice storm in Oklahoma, and so a lot of the trees had died. And so months later, she's like, well, that's not going to make it. And all of these floods of the critical, like this and that's not right and that's not right, came through. And so the whole mirror aspect of like, where in my life am I being critical? And it was actually to myself. And I had reflected on like my checklist during the day. And if I don't check this and that, then I feel that the day is like a failure. And so that criticism in that mirror forced me to look at something in myself that I was neglecting. And sometimes it's like if I'm not feeling heard, usually 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 times, I'm not listening in some aspect of my life. So it's been very humbling and really a challenging thing to look at. It's not easy to be like, oh, there's another one, because I was angry a lot. And so all of these were like, whoa, there's one, whoa, there's one. So it's been an adventure and a lot of eye-opening things about myself and things that I need to shift and look at and patterns and all of it. It's been crazy with the energy and collectively with, the world. And I'll even look at stages of politics and, get really upset or it's like something that's directly affecting me and wound up and all of that. And it's like, all right, what is this really about? And usually there's something reflective inside that I'm like, okay, I'm really dodging, really looking at that because this has got my attention at the time.
Yes, definitely. I really resonate with humbling and eye-opening and triggering, these words that you used. And yeah, I think it's really what's happening is that until people come to a point that they start to take more responsibility for their life and actions, they are not ready to really see what's being reflected in these mirrors. And if you are triggered, if I am triggered, it's true for everybody. The only reason why we are triggered is because there is pain that we hold, and there is a wound there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be triggered at all. So, imagine it that way, that you have an open wound and somebody come and puts their finger in it. So of course you're gonna be like, fuck you, so to say, go away. Like it's gonna be probably, and this is how people react when they are not aware. It's gonna be either attack or defense, right? They're gonna push against it and blame, the other person or judge, or it's gonna be just with complete withdrawal and isolation and not wanting to hear it, talk about it. That's another unconscious reaction to this mirroring, that is happening to everybody all the time. The question is that, how do you interpret that, and what do you do with it? And that's what we are talking about. So my experience is that obviously people who come to work with this medicine, a lot of people already did some conscious healing work, or they have a spiritual path or some understanding, some practices. So these are people who are already starting taking responsibility and say, hey, there are parts of me that are manifesting, that only I can do something about. And therefore I think that when these people work with this particular medicine, that can really open you up very deep. And what's happening is really that, she's expanding your awareness. So you become more and more aware. For example, as you said that, hey, how is that I met different person in 3 different days within 1 week, and they all said the same thing to me. Before, you never think about it this way. You are triggered and you're reacting, and you are just like perpetuating that cycle. But once you become more conscious and aware, and more willing to reflect on yourself, more willing to take responsibility, more willing, to do what needs to do in order to heal and integrate yourself, then you suddenly, start to see these things in a different way. And suddenly you start to say how that can be. And what does it say? What is the universe saying? What is my higher self saying through these people to me? And I think that's a huge opportunity when you work with this plant, because you have this vast expansion of awareness. People can really get stuck in old patterns, and they simply just stay in resistance. And you can take it as an opportunity, especially if you have a guide, a healer who is guiding you through your process, that, hey, look at this, like, what does it say to you, about yourself, about the world, about what you believe in, and exploring that, and going, within, to find that aspect that is not seen. That's why it is reflected in the mirror, so. And once you find that aspect, and that is normally a fragmented, a separated aspect, of wounded aspect, so to say, then you can bring love there, which is, attention, loving attention there, and you can acknowledge that, and embrace that, and integrate that part. And then what's going to happen, that mirror will not show up for you anymore. So then, therefore, that you kind of integrated that aspect. It won't be a trigger for you anymore. It won't show up anymore. At the same time, of course, there are stories that is a lifetime of work, so, be patient and graceful with yourself. But definitely, the whole point of it is, I see, is self-love and self-acceptance, because we talk about this in, many podcasts, that love is the medicine, and it starts with you loving yourself, you accepting who you are, loving yourself, all parts of you, the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly. And these mirrors help you to see you. And I mean, of course, the triggers help to see the wounded parts of you, but there are many beautiful mirrors, your friends, your loved ones, that are reflecting all the amazing and gifted parts of you back. So it's not our topic today, but of course, it's not only, the mirrors are not always bad. Well, they are not bad at all, but like triggering, so to say. And when you I think that the medicine can really help you and help people to shift our perception, instead of being in this resistance and denial, into, what can I see, what can I learn from this experience, and how can I find and embrace and bring love to those aspects of myself that are reflected back, and that are neglected and separated and pushed away and denied, on an unconscious level. Otherwise, you wouldn't need the mirror. So, but it is a huge shift in perception, because what's happening is that, you automatically want to go away from pain towards pleasure. So this really requires conscious decision, that you're gonna deal with it, and you're gonna go through it, because instinctually you wouldn't want to go towards the wounding, because it's painful. You would want to be in denial, in avoidance, in all of these things, because it's painful to go there, and you don't want to re-experience the pain, so to say. But what happens is that, um, just because you don't want to address something or look at something, it will not go away. And I mean, if we look at our life, we can clearly see that the same stories surface, the same issues surface, and then, you know, things manifest, you know, in sickness and in disease and stuff, you know, when they are not embraced, acknowledged, and expressed. So it is a conscious decision, and also requires a certain level of awareness and understanding, that you understand that this is really for your own good. Really, if you want to feel better and be free, this is the only way to do it, that you do this type of integration and you recognize that the universe is working for you and giving you these mirrors and these reflections, so you can, you know, just become who you are and in that wholeness and live your best life, so to say. And when you can see through this lens, you're not going to have so much resistance and denial, you know. So how is your experience with that?
Well, I love that you are talking about like what you can learn from it. Like I am seeing it now more as like, all right, this is another opportunity for growth and not something I have to fix, but an opportunity to raise my vibration and heal and all of those things. I just celebrated my 40th birthday and I was triggered, and it was such a deep, dramatic, traumatic experience for me and showed me so much. We were all going to dinner and I had been left behind, and I was wearing wedges and they broke and nobody could hear me, and like I was just like, I fell and my knee was all scraped up. And then that trauma, it was like two traumas combined. So one was not feeling heard, and then the second was abuse that I had had on my legs as a child. And then I finally catch up to my group, and people are in their phones and totally unaware of what I had just gone through. And it took me, I mean, I'm still processing all of those lessons, because I had thought I really had purged all of those deep traumas, but I really didn't know how much I was affected when it was in a situation where I was faced with two at once.
I think, you know, I really resonate with what you say, because sometimes I think the mirror can be very clear and evident, you know, and it's kind of easy to decode or to see, hey, this is like, you know, how much more explanation or how much more simply it can be put for you, you know, so you get it. But oftentimes it's not so easy to decode what is the message, you know, and oftentimes we need several mirrors to really decode or to really get the bottom of it, you know. And we get, you know, similar mirrors, you know, in order. And sometimes I also feel that we are confused sometimes, and we do not necessarily get, you know, the full message at the beginning, because you are trapped in your own story, and then you looking through that lens and through that perception on the mirror, and trying to also be outside of it and reflect on it and decode it and stuff. So it could be challenging. So it's good to have maybe other people who you trust, who, when you are in this situation, they can reflect with you and you say, hey, this is what's happening to me, this is kind of my interpretation, you know me, you are my friend and stuff, like, what do you see? You know, I think that can be really helpful. Also to obviously journal and write and express, you know, how are you feeling about what's happening, what is coming up for you. Your advice was, or what you shared was very good. You know, when did I feel this way? Is this feeling familiar? When did I experience that? When was the first time I experienced it? What kind of memories, what kind of people is it connected to? And so there is some good ways, you know, to reflect and decode. And also prayer is really good, also saying to the universe, show me, or if you are not clear, you are confused, show me a clear sign, or be more specific, or show me it in another way, because I'm so not getting it, you know. So that's also can be very helpful, because as you said, you know, sometimes it's overwhelming and it's not so straightforward in the moment, and it's also not necessarily just, you know, a short process, but it can it can open up something, that is, take some time to unwrap and to completely process. So I think it's definitely a lifetime practice. And as we talked about, this element of taking the responsibility, I think that is crucial, until people are in that mindset that they think that their problems are caused by other people and by the environment outside of them. They never gonna get this process or be able to approach it this way. I think that really the first step is to coming into that point of that responsibility, that and that understanding that the external world is an expression of your internal reality. And if something is, being expressed, very strongly, it is because this is something is within you, is reflected, very strongly, and these things are intimately connected, like so within as without. And I think that that is absolutely crucial starting point for somebody who will have the ability to do that. Otherwise, it's not possible to look at yourself, because you're, of course, it's not your fault, it's all the other people. So why would you look within, right? And it can be, the greatest liberation. So I do this for such a long time, and I'm surrounded with people who also passionate about and committed to this path. And we laugh that we love triggers, that we are at that point, that totally shifted the perception, and is like, I love it, this is great, this is, I'm gonna get more free, more loving, like a better person. This is an opportunity for me to really open your heart. I had a teacher who said to me, love is all inclusive. And that's something that I still meditate on, because I think it's a concept to, there's so many perspective on it, but really the truth is that it's not true for most people, and that's because of trauma and wounding. So how I look at these mirrors and triggers really is that every time I have a mirror and the trigger, and I work through that and I heal that, I extend that boundary of my love a little bit farther and a little bit bigger, and it will include more. I'm still not on that level of, having the same unconditional love for everything. And I mean, on the human level, obviously. And that's how I look at it. And that makes it, for me, something attractive, something that I really truly want to do. And this is my experience after so many years, that I became more open-hearted, more loving, and able to connect with people, in a different way that has more depth, more authenticity, more love. So it's like a lot of benefits, but at the beginning, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and the benefits gonna come a little bit later. So I think a lot of people might get discouraged, and they just get overwhelmed. They don't necessarily have tools, to process their experience. They don't have guidance, so they're like freaking out. And that's why it's so important, that's why we are doing this podcast. That's why we are doing all this work, to support people in their process, because it is overwhelming. And we all need healing. I was doing a live on Facebook today about why do you need healing, and I was talking about how some people still believe that if you go into therapy, there's something wrong with you. And it says nothing can be further from the truth. It's really the opposite. It's the only healthy and conscious decision regarding that we all come from dysfunctional families and places, and this is just how things are. So to take responsibility, say, I'm going to do something about that, and I'm not going to perpetuate that chain of pain and that suffering that was passed down, and I have the power to do that, and I'm going to do it. That is very, very empowering and liberating. So if you're, on the fence, please go for it. You're not going to regret it. And support is always available. So do you like, how is it for you, Casey? Like, do you have a good supportive environment and guidance, that helps you in this process when you feel really overwhelmed?
It's not the same person for every situation. Um, but one thing that I have found is that the more I look out, the more confusing I become. And so my big go to has been these baths at night. So I take these magical baths and I'll work with different essential oils. So I've even taken an alfalfa bath with clove to like detox, to love baths where I'm, with my rose quartz and my pink Himalayan salt and rose oil. And that usually does include, prayer and all of that to really feel this stuff releasing, and then go to bed really feeling cleansed and like you're not holding any energy, because it is overwhelming. But that connection has been a good meditative experience for me, and I really can't go to bed without it anymore. But it depends on the day of what quote unquote recipe I use. Sometimes I've got Idaho blue spruce because my vibration's just like super drained and I need a boost. But yeah, I've been getting into the whole bath recipes, and it's been pretty amazing.
That's amazing. I love it, and thank you for sharing with our audience. Is there any other tool that really helps you kind of center or go back to that inner guidance?
Always nature, getting my feet on the ground, gardening, anything outside, even bird watching, making a cup of tea and just drinking the cup of tea in silence and being. I usually have something going on, whether it's music or a podcast. So, like tuning all of the technology out and just listening to your breath has always helped center me too. It's a process of learning, because it's like it becomes a lifestyle integration. So I'm still on the track, still on the growth. Like I just don't see it ever being I've got it.
And thank you for saying this, because I think it's really important, because when we get triggered and overwhelmed, it's more mental, the overwhelm, it's a mental, there's so many voices and perspectives going on at the same time. That's mostly the overwhelm that people experience. And obviously anxiety, that arises from this mental, dissolution. And one of the best way is to center, is to come back to the body, come back to the present moment. Nature, quiet, definitely quiet, turn everything off, because that will just add noise. You don't want to add noise, you want to take noise away. So quieting down, being in a quiet environment, being in nature, because nature has a harmonious vibration. So when you are out of harmony, if you just sit on the earth or sit next to a tree or lean to a tree, that will naturally harmonize you and balance your energy, because nature is harmony. So, and then, of course, breathing, using any kind of tools, meditation techniques, whatever you want to do that help you with coming into your body. Like sometimes I recommend people very simple tools of look at your hands for a few minutes and observe your fingers, and just look at the physical and see, how does my finger feel, how does it feel. And, it's just really simple, basic, because we can be so whoa trapped in that cycle, in that story. Sometimes we don't even know we are trapped, but even sometimes we know we are trapped, and it's like we feel that we cannot get out. So these are some simple tools, definitely, that can help, at that point of overwhelm, and also to to drop in and to quiet and to drop in that question, like what we talked about before. What do I need to see here? What do I need to learn here? So instead of frantically trying to figure out mentally, intellectually, what is going on, which will be confusing because there's a lot going on in our heads, just dropping in this question, whatever you want to call it, to your higher self, deeper self, divine self, that has the answer, 100%, the perfect answer, the correct answer. So you don't have to know. That can add to the overwhelm and to the anxiety that you are trying to figure it out with your mind, instead of quieting and say, tell me, show me, what is that here that I need to see, because that the universe wants to show you, that we just need to be receptive to see, to hear the message, to see it. Really, we don't need to effort to figure it out. And that's, it can be just an obstacle. So it's good to be aware of that. And, as we said, why are you doing this? Why we are doing this is to be free, and to feel good. I think it's just very basic. Everybody wants to be free and feel good. And your quality of life is determined by how you're feeling, no matter what you have, if you don't feel good in your life. And you cannot feel good when you are carrying so much pain and trauma. It's just impossible, so that's why we are doing it, to feel good and to be free. And what I mean by freedom is not being driven by unconscious programs and patterns and trauma, and react from that space, but to be conscious and to respond, in a conscious way, not out of trauma and conditioning. That's what freedom is, that, you respond from your truth and from your higher self. And another just good thing that I want to mention is obviously attitude of gratitude. Instead of looking at people as the enemy, look at the world as the enemy, look at God as the enemy, whatever you want to call it, to look through this lens, that this is happening for me, it is for my healing, my awakening. When you do this, it's going to be so much easier for you to go through life. Because imagine when you go through life with this defense that everybody is against you, they want to hurt you, they want to take from you, and all this is like, it's very stressful, and you are always stressed out, you are always on defense. And it's not true. It's actually not true. It's a misconception. It's a trauma response, And to come to this state that this is happening for me. The whole universe is conspiring to awaken me, to help me to heal, to help me to remember who I am, to help me to step into my power, to follow my dreams, to create amazing, magical things, to serve other people, to take care of this planet and all these things. Then you don't have that resistance so much, and that frustration, and that denial, and then it becomes easier to move through this. Otherwise, what normally happens with people is a trajectory that you are not willing to see. It's going to be like stronger and stronger mirrors and signs and actions, that are happen to you, until you will come to a crisis, to a turning point, to a fork in the road, so to say. And that's normally a crisis for people, is a breakdown, is a loss, is an illness, is a something. And that's really just the universe shouting, or your higher self or your divine being shouting at you that, hello, open your eyes, do some changes, change your trajectory, and hello, and let go or be dragged. If you're not going willingly, you're gonna be forced in a very uncomfortable and painful way to face these things, because this is nature, this is evolution. You evolve through this learning process, and you cannot check out of this. You signed up, I'm sorry, like, even if you don't remember or you do not agree, you did sign up for this. And this is happening so we can step into a higher state of being, and an expression of our higher self that is more loving and more peaceful. And I think if you look at the world right now, that we can all agree that this is very necessary. And so within, in the individual, so it is in the collective, and to see how much healing we need as a collective human species, it's just the same thing. And with laws and with wars and with control, you cannot fix things. The only thing that will fix things is love and healing, bringing healing, to the pain. And that healing starts, I think, within the individual, within each of us, who decides that I'm going to do this for myself, for my family, for my community, for my species, human species, for this planet, for this and I'm doing it, and you doing it, and our friends are doing it, and more people doing it, and that will change this world. That there's no other force that can really change us, because we are the world. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the thing that I do know that's been super helpful, because I know I didn't believe it a few years ago, but nature and being outside and all of those, and water, just reminds me I am truly supported. And I do have the universe, God, like I have this overwhelming level of support around me that I feel, that's just developing stronger and stronger as I release all of this wonderful lessons and examine more things. So that whole point of just knowing that we're supported in this journey, and it is internal, and we have all of the things that we need to get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more important aspect is that, you know, acknowledging what's in the mirror and seeing the truth, so to say, is half of the work. And then you need to act upon that, make some corrections normally in your life. So, because I think a lot of people also stuck there that, oh, I can see what is the problem, what is being told to me, but I'm not doing anything about it to change it. So then this case, you're just getting the same mirrors all the time. So it's important that you can see, but also then the next question is what you're going to do about it, right?
Absolutely.
And then, as you said, if you need help or support, there is plenty of help. The whole universe is there to help you, but there are many spaces where you can receive personal help and support, if you need it. And please reach out, because this is overwhelming and this is intense, and maybe you can do it alone. Everything is possible, but you don't have to. There's community, there's support that makes it easier, and it will shorten, the time of the suffering, because we can learn from each other. So don't isolate yourself, and don't do it alone, because there's all this support and help available to you. And yeah, I would like to share about the workshop that I'm relaunching, the art of emotional integration, because I think this is really, in our topic, like a big part of what the integration process, and in the ayahuasca assisted therapy and any kind of healing process is emotional trauma healing and emotional integration, which is basically learning about your emotional nature, and also to let go of suppressed emotion that you may carry from the past, and learn how to express yourself emotionally in a healthy way. So learn tools and practices to break patterns like suppressing certain emotions and denying, and so on and so forth. So this is like a very crucial point of any healing process. And I think that a lot of people need help, because as we said, that we are not educated about our emotional nature, and oftentimes we are told you shouldn't feel that way, or that is not okay, and better just to shut down and hide it, because those feelings are not acceptable. And this is big part of the unhappiness, because we are feeling beings, right? And when you deny that part of you, it's getting really hard, it becomes really hard, your life. So this is a 7-week online workshop, and we're going to include the link in the description. And if you feel that this is something that resonates with you, please check out the details and join us. It's going to start in 2 or 3 weeks. And that's something with this a very minimal investment from your time and finances, but it can help you greatly wherever you are right now. And the good news is that I'm gonna do a men only group, because I'm really hoping that those men who are ready to do this work will come forward, and maybe they don't feel good to come into all women's spaces all the time. So I'm really excited to offer this container also only for men. It's going to be a slightly different experience, but very exciting. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And thank you for following us, listening us. Please follow us, and send comments, sign up on our mailing list, avatarhealingarts.com. And if you have any good topics or questions, like, just connect with us so we can, put that in our schedule. And yeah, thank you so much for being with us today, and sending you lots of love wherever you are. And remember that you are the healer and love is the medicine. And thank you, Casey, for being here, sister.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here again.
Thank you. Lots of love.